Hello and welcome everyone to EllieMD's live educational series. I'm EllieMD's social media manager and tonight's host, Brenda Rios. We're so glad you're here and joining us. At EllieMD, our goal is to go beyond traditional telehealth by creating a space for meaningful conversations, science-backed insights, and personalized guidance that empowers you to take on an active role in your health and longevity. Tonight's episode is very special. It's another launch week at EllieMD, so if you haven't heard, NAD nasal spray is back. Last week, we released another special peptide by the name of MOTC. So I'm thrilled to have Dr. Jason here with us to walk us through all of these special peptides. Dr. Jason is a board-certified nurse practitioner and chiropractor who combines traditional medicine with integrative approaches to deliver truly whole person care. Dr. Pencek began his career in nursing and later expanded into chiropractic medicine, peptide therapy, hormone optimization, and longevity-focused treatments. With over a decade of clinical experience and a strong focus on GLP-1 therapies, he works closely with patients to improve metabolic health, support sustainable weight management, and build a foundation for long-term wellness. Jason, thank you so much for joining us here. To start, can you share a little bit about your journey? I know we have a lot of people who tune in every week, but for all of those who are new, can you just share your quick elevator pitch about your background?
Sure. Brenda, thanks for having me here again with EllieMD. I should have had my EllieMD behind me today. I totally forgot to put that up, but I will. So I started with peptides about 7 years ago. Before that, I was running a clinic doing hormones and IVs and some joint injections, regenerative joint injections, exosomes, stem cells, all that stuff. And I had a group of guy friends that really wanted me to get them steroids, as all my guy friends were lifting and thought they could get big and strong. And they wanted growth hormone. The big thing was they wanted was growth hormone. At the time, I knew nothing about growth hormone. I didn't know what was going on. So I ended up saying, sure. I researched growth hormone, found growth hormone peptides accidentally a little over 7.5 years ago now. And once I found growth hormone peptides, I went down a rabbit hole and I found that the first time learning about peptides in the United States was actually going on. One of the first seminars was actually presenting in the next couple months. So I got to one of the first seminars, got to start learning. So 7 years ago, because my friends wanted to get muscular, strong, and ripped and lean, they got me convinced to get growth on peptides. So I ended up using all the stuff, getting all the things. I try all the peptides, everything I get, I try, I use. I've used everything out there that I can imagine. And unfortunately, only one of my friends actually works with me out of the three guys. So none of them can work with me. In fact, one of them actually told me he buys from someone in his state. And I said, "What are you doing not working with me? We're LEMD. Come on." And now, of course, peptides are the thing. So we've now seen that everyone and their brother is out there selling peptides, talking about peptides, promoting them, and you can find peptides anywhere. I think the problem is now we're seeing so many people are selling this with discount codes for their online services, and it's just been saturated. So I like that LAMD has come to the front and allows people to use doctors, compounding pharmacies, and get to access to this stuff, which I don't see with all these labs. And again, the big thing I want to remind people, the reason we use LAMD and we don't use labs is a lot of these labs are not testing the product. And if they are testing this product, aren't finding the right things. I had someone yesterday just talk about finding heavy metals such as lead in their product. That is something we don't see in LEMD products because they're compounded. So just letting you know, there's a reason why we want compounded products over just buying online from some random shady site. So anyway.
No, thanks for sharing that. And yeah, I definitely see a lot of people learning about it, about peptides. I just saw this meme going on Instagram that people were talking about peptides, but in the comment section, they're like, "Oh, I bet they use GHKCU," and they didn't look like peptide users, but I was looking at all those accounts. But a lot of people are definitely hearing about it, and NAD is definitely one that I see a lot on TikTok,
Mhm.
Instagram. I
Yeah.
even just a few years ago, I had heard about it in the news when Haley Bieber. It was on one of their shows, but
The Kardashians, come on,
yeah,
they were also into it. They're getting IVs.
the
Like NAD is
foundation of youth.
it's the thing, yeah. I mean, I have to say, we use NAD in practice. I use NAD. Whenever I make a video on NAD, it blows up. Some of my biggest videos are on NAD, right? Everyone is seeing celebrities use it and saying, wait, but I want to use this magical tool.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, and I love
um,
that there's the convenience, but
mhm,
as mentioned, so LAD just has NAD back for the nasal spray version.
mhm.
So to kick us off, can you explain what NAD is and why it plays such a central role with cellular energy and overall health?
Yeah, it's basically the primary electron transfer like substrate needed to move electrons in and out. So when you look at the mitochondria, this little like kind of thing like this, it's got a little cristae on it. If anyone remembers cell biology, there's what's called electron transport chain. It's what makes all the energy in our body. You have to go through the electron transport chain to make what's called ATP, which is just our cell energy. You need this NAD to help basically move these electrons in and out of the cell. What they do is they take and they move the electron in and out. They help move the electron in and out. Basically, it's going to work on being a coenzyme for the reaction, so this reaction can happen in the mitochondria to make ATP. Think of this as one of the final steps. It's not the final step, but one of the final steps and the last things needed to produce energy at a cell level. The more energy at a cell level that you have, the better everything in your body functions. It doesn't just mean overall energy of how you feel, but this means better DNA repair altogether, better insulin sensitivity, more fat loss, more fat oxidation, repair recovery, better sleep. I mean, you want to think anything that requires energy in the body needs to utilize NAD, and it does go down as you age. So helping bring it back in some way, shape, or form could be very useful for a lot of people out there.
And you mentioned that NAD levels decline as we age. Are there
Mhm.
any other external factors that can contribute to that?
Oh, for sure. Just in general, the biosynthesis, making of NAD goes down as you age. This is just something we are well aware of. NAD levels start to drop 10, 20, 30, 40. You get older and you start to see 50, 60% drops as you get into your 50s and 60s. So you see massive drops in NAD levels, which we see and understand as the skin. You can see your skin aging, you can see the aging process happen. Your DNA doesn't work as well, your repair systems don't work as well to repair DNA. So number one is we lose it from just not making anymore. The biosynthesis um, kind of goes down. So precursors like tryptophan and niacin aren't there, so you're missing the precursors. It's part of it. You also can't get those well absorbed, so part you can't get in your body, you can absorb it as well. That's one. You also just don't make as much. Number two is that DNA repair I talked about takes a lot of energy. Think of DNA repair, any kind of UV damage, right? If you go in the sun and get damage from there, if you have environmental toxins around you, you're doing that. If you're drinking alcohol, if you're ever not to drinking alcohol, NAD really useful. We use NAD to break down alcohol in the body. We also see problems with food, right? So people that are eating, kind of a high glucose diet, high fructose diet, need a lot of NAD to break this down. Because what really happens is it causes damage to the cell, and it needs to be repaired because high fructose and high glucose diets don't do well for us. So that's that DNA repair. You need a lot of NAD for that. And then finally, as we age, there's a thing called CD38. It's expressed in immune cells, and I think I probably talked about this before on some Ellie Zoom here. But what we see is when the immune system gets older, and we don't doesn't work as well, we start to see problems with inflammaging. So inflammaging is that process of getting inflammation as we age, and it's partly due to the immune system. The CD38 cell, or CD38, is going to be what really has the problem. There's a CD38 receptor. It's going to utilize this NAD, and it takes a lot of it to keep inflammation down. So when you see inflammation going up, you need to quench this inflammation or help bring it down by utilizing tons of NAD. So as we age, biosynthesis goes down. You need a lot more NAD to help work on the environmental factors, DNA repair, and then finally the CD38. There is also some need for what's called SARM1, SARM1. It's basically for neurocognitive decline, neurodegeneration. So when you start to go through this neurocognitive decline, neurodegeneration, you also use a lot of NAD. So that's another big process. There is future use of some molecules, small molecules, helping stop this generation. Because what you have is this NAD sink. It's just draining this NAD all the time. And you have two ways that you get NAD. One is called the NAD salvage pathway. We just make more of what we already have. And then secondarily, you can exogenously take it like we do here with the LEMD. So those are the two big ways that people get it. And again, you make it through synthesis. But adding NAD to the system is what either happens. You either add NAD and synthesize it, or you keep it recycled going through it.
And you mentioned that you could see it with the skin aging. What other symptoms should someone, or might they even notice, or health changes when it comes to that can help them understand the science behind how NAD is working in the body?
Yeah. So you're like, what can NAD work on? Um, Fatigue is the big one. The one number one things I use in practice for is for fatigue. And I will tell you, I have other practitioners and doctors who argue left and right with me, saying that when you give exogenous NAD, like we do here at Ellie, like I do in practice, um, you can't get into the cell. So the argument is it's not getting to the cell. So what use of it? It doesn't do anything. Anyone out there listening that's taken NAD, first off, you can take injectable NAD, people get a flush. They get a really strong flush. Most people feel something when they take NAD. So it's doing something in the body. The argument though is, can it get in the cell? Maybe you feel something in the body, but can it get into the cell and work? Our belief right now is there's no receptor on the cell to bring it in. Just so we're clear about this, we don't think there's a receptor anywhere, but maybe on the cardiomyocytes in the heart. There's questionable receptor. Maybe they might work on this there. Outside of that, it's being broken down into precursors such as niacin, and then going back into the cell. So outside the cell, it's broken down. It's extracellular. This is fluid we put in our body, goes around, breaks outside the cell, and then goes into the cell and becomes NAD again, which is what we want. And because we do such high volume of NAD, we're doing such a huge amount of it, compared to what we have in the bloodstream normally, we have this uprush of energy. So typically people see fatigue. The number one thing people are saying is, I'm tired, I'm fatigued. I had a patient a few hours before, and I just got off a phone call. She complained about afternoon fatigue. I said, you know what? We're going to do a few things, but hey, if it doesn't get better, we're going to try NAD. You're 51 years old. Your NAD is depleted. You're maybe making 30, 40% of what you did when you're in your teens. Let's bump that back up. So I'm all about using NAD for fatigue. That's a big one. Let's say your recovery is bad, right? So let's say we have some athletes here. I'm currently in Cancun right now. I want to try the High Rocks. The High Rocks is this weekend. If anyone doesn't know High Rocks, it's a race basically similar to um, doing CrossFit plus running. And I'm down here. It happens this weekend. I see those athletes wanting, working out. They're obviously coming down here. And recovery matters, right? Recovery matters for everyone, especially for my athletes. How do we recover better? One of the things we can utilize is NAD. As NAD levels start to drop, we see recovery go down. Brain fog happens when we get older. Partly due to NAD. There's actually good research showing as NAD levels start to decline in the brain, Alzheimer's is a big thing, dementia start happening. So you can lose it and you start having brain fog, brain doesn't work as well. Metabolic inflexibility. So now our cells don't work as well. We can't get glucose in and out. So we lose the ability to maintain our insulin levels and to control how our body handles insulin. So insulin sensitivity issues happen. Or sleep. Your sleep gets bad. So now my sleep is also bad. NAD levels go down. Um, your exercise tolerance isn't good. You can't exercise as far as you did when you're younger, when NADs go down. So, and then finally, just like mitochondrial dysfunction, your DNA, like you can look at markers. There are actually companies that do this, and they can look at to see how much NAD you have. And they could also see how your genome is, like how many breaks or parts of your genome have been destroyed. And again, this is what it works on. NAD is repairing DNA. That's using PARPs basically is what you need NAD for, to work on these repair mechanisms through these basically molecules that are going to work on repairing the DNA. So fatigue is the big one. Secondarily, with recovery, brain fog, and sleep is one of the big ones that we use NAD for.
Yeah, there was a comment a few weeks ago on one of the educational series. I don't remember what peptide she had mentioned, but she felt more of the effects after she was off of it. That's when she really noticed the difference that it was
Hmm.
making. And on
Hmm.
the recovery point, I a few months ago I had run a 5K for the first time, and I never even trained for it at all. And I expected to be sore and in aches and pains the following day, but I was just finishing my first cycle of NAD and I was completely fine. So I definitely credited that recovery to it.
Brenda, I thought you'd tell me you ran and won the 5K because you did the NAD injection before. And be like, way to go. Promote that NAD. It
It
doesn't
was
work that
enough to
well.
complete it.
That's good. That's good. I had a speed skater a couple years ago who was doing the Olympics and time trials, and he wanted to utilize the NAD to help his performance. The thing is, when you're young and when you work out a ton, you typically have a good amount of NAD. So in this particular individual, he wasn't, I mean, time trial, he wasn't super impressed. He's like, I got a little better, but it wasn't, but the recovery is what mattered to him. He's like, my recovery was better. Now, I didn't go get my time trials better, but my recovery to do this again was better, was the big thing he knows the difference with. So recovery for me and patients is a big deal.
Mhm.
So I use an AD personally for that. I don't see that giant energy boost some patients do. People will come to me and say, my energy is so much better on this. If I miss an injection, I just don't feel as good. And like you said, to what you said, Brenda, some patients don't notice the difference until they stop. And they're like, oh, wait, that was really working. Oh, I need to get back on this. I need to do it more frequently. I need to start using my NAD again. So for me, it's the recovery that I notice the difference with, not really that energy boost that some people say, oh my gosh, I feel so much more energy when I take this stuff. So,
Mhm. And going back to what you were mentioning about precursors and connecting it
mhm,
to a comment that I see on the chat from Andrea, she says that she was reading that NMN comes before NAD. So
mhm,
is NAD getting absorbed by your cells properly? But I also want to expand on that. I do see that there are supplements available with other companies about NMN. So
mhm.
what's the big difference that people should be looking out
Yeah.
between those?
And NAD. So yeah, so I just talked about this a few seconds ago, but I'm going to remind you here, NAD possibly can't get into our cells. We don't know if there's a good way to get it in. The precursors, NMN and NR, which is nicotinamide riboside, nicotinamide mononucleotide, and even niacin, they're all great options. They can raise your intracellular NAD. We have studies on this. We know it. The difference is going to be acute versus chronic. So when patients want that acute energy feeling, they want to feel the energy right away. They want to feel better. They want their brain fog to be gone right away. They want their energy to be ready right away. Taking a pill of NMN or NR or even niacin isn't going to fix that. This is chronic. You need to build up. Taking any of the precursors could take weeks, anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to see any change. And many people tell you when they take the precursors, some people can feel a difference. Some people can't see anything at all. I didn't see anything when I took it. I've taken NAD orally, NMN. I tried like a 6 month window of it personally. It didn't see much of a difference. Now I take the NAD injectable. My recovery is a bit better. I do see an improvement, performance improvement for myself. Can you get into the cell is a real question. The answer is we don't think so. We don't think you can get it directly into the cell. What we do think happens is it breaks down outside the cell. And because there's such a high amount of this NAD outside the cell, which doesn't normally exist, you have this flush of NAD coming in, this massive improvement in NAD levels in the intracellular levels of the NAD. There is no great research, nothing shown this so far, unfortunately. A lot of this is anecdotal. So again, if anyone out there has tried NAD, raise your hand, tell us, hey, how did you feel? Because a lot of people come to me, I put these videos out there and I ask the audience, kind of just tell us your experience. Because I patients come back and tell me this stuff. I hear really great things about NAD. Just like any peptide out there, I mean, you might have taken semaglutide and not lost weight, and taken tirzepatide and it worked for you, right? Not everything works for everyone. We have to be very clear about this. This is medicine. The practice of medicine, the art of it, is trying to find the right thing for the right person. We are now getting into more DNA. We're seeing what genetics are. We're kind of maybe this person does need more NAD. Maybe they don't methylate properly. This is the other thing we talk about. When you do NAD, you need to take methyl donors. You need methyl B12, methylfolic acid, and trimethylglycine. So these are the three things I use the most of in practice when I use NAD. Some people have the NTHFR gene mutation, and this gene mutation causes you to have poor methylation, and you need good methylation for NAD to work. If you don't have good methylation, NAD will make you feel like crap. So the people out there, they're like, I get fatigued, I feel awful, I don't feel good on NAD. Typically, they're poor methylators and they need those precursors. So that's one thing I do with my patients. I say, hey, we probably should get these in you to help you feel better because, again, NAD might not work. And we don't always know who poor methylators are because even if we have the genetics and we find you have an NTHFR gene mutation, you're heterozygous with one or homozygous, meaning you have a more of a high risk of this. If it's not being expressed, again, there's genetics, epigenetics. What are we expressing? If you're not expressing it, you might be fine taking NAD, not need precursors. But the only way to do that is to do lab work. I look at things like homocysteine, glutathione levels. These are my top two things I look at to see if there's any problems with how patients methylate. So if I see high homocysteine, they're getting automatically put on some kind of methyl donor option, B vitamins. And then NAD is going to work better. If you utilize NAD before that, that's when people come back and say, don't feel good. So anyone in here that's working with Ellie and saying, hey, like someone I know, I recommend this to, took it and felt terrible, recommend potentially using methyl donors, a methyl product. I personally use something called Homocysteine Supreme. It's a company that makes it for me, and it works well. So to close this loop here, NAD really can't get into our cells that well, but we really believe that it actually does a lot by breaking down outside the cell. And because it's such a large amount compared to what you can take orally, you get a high amount of NAD into the cells, which is going to help with the energy, brain fog, instant sensitivity, recovery, repair, sleep, all those things. So that's really where we see it working. The whole point of giving NAD is to maintain that NAD to NADH redox ratio. That's what we're trying to do. This ratio determines how efficiently the mitochondria run oxidative phosphorylation, which is basically how well does this work in the body to make more ATP. Lots of NAD supports basic electron transport. Like I said, the ETC, electron transport chain, which means more ATP. If you can make this electron transport chain function better, again, this is in the mitochondria, this electron going up and down. If you can prove how well this works, you make more ATP. More ATP means more cell energy, means everything from the ground up works better. I really want to separate, hey, I have energy, I feel good, as opposed to cell energy. Cell energy is at the very bottom. That's what makes everything up. If the cell energy is better, that means everything in the whole biology can work better and more efficiently. You need energy to run every single process in your body. If you don't make enough ATP, you will be dead. That is what's happening. You need ATP to survive. So when you give an AD, you can make it more efficient. You get more ATP. You also reduce oxygen species, basically like reactive oxygen species leakage. Like so, basically, you have this damage to the DNA to the electron transport chain happening at any given time. This basically we talk about all this stuff all the time. We always want antioxidants. Everyone's antioxidants, antioxidants, antioxidants. Well, we need antioxidants because our cells get damaged, our mitochondria get damaged. When these damages happen, you have more leakage of the electrons, and NAD can help reduce this leakage from the damage that's occurring from this oxidative reactive oxygen species, ROS, basically. And then you also can help make more mitochondria. So NAD can also help improve how many mitochondria you have, which the other thing we're going to talk about today is MOTS-c. MOTS-c can also help improve mitochondrial biogenesis. It's much better at making more mitochondria than NAD, but NAD can also help improve how well your mitochondria divide and basically become more than one, basically through SIRT1, and this is going to be through the PGC1 alpha signaling is how NAD works. So I know I said a lot there, Brenda.
No, thank you for answering.
But yes, NAD is great. There's a lot of good reasons to use it. The biggest one being for me, we want to keep this NAD to NADH ratio. That's like the big thing we want. And you lose NAD as we age, and we have more NADH. So this ratio starts to change in the opposite direction we want with the aging process. And giving NAD back in A form, whether it's the precursors, the injections, the nasal, is going to be useful. I always want to pick the injections for my patients or the nasal, just because in practice, I see a lot more people coming to me and saying, this works. I've taken NMN, I've taken NR, I've taken niacin. And again, we know they get into the cell. We are very clear on that. But for some reason, anyone that's taken both cannot see much of a difference when they take the oral. And not that everyone feels that way. Some people might come back and say, yeah, I feel great with that NMN. But typically those people feel even better with taking NAD. So.
And on MOTS-c, it's another question that we get a lot. Can they take NAD with MOTS-c or even NAD with methylene blue?
Yeah. So yes, that all goes together. Those three things do play a role. So MOTS-c is going to make more mitochondria. That's one of the big things it does, like improving the way mitochondria function, making mitochondria. That's one of the best things that MOTS-c does. It also helps keeping the cells alive. So mitochondria determine whether or not a cell lives or dies. If mitochondria don't function, the cell says goodbye, broken down, not working. If you can take cells, you can take the mitochondria, divide them. Hopefully, you make good mitochondria. There are other peptides that can repair mitochondria, but MOTS-c helps make more. I mean, you make more mitochondria, you keep that cell alive longer, you can keep that cell functioning longer, which is typically good. The only time we have a problem with that would be cancer. So there is some information. I think someone asked about cancer and NAD. There is some research showing that potentially if you have cancer, again, active cancer, MOTS-C, NAD may not be good options because it might help the cancer grow. Cancer loves NAD. On the other hand, NAD can also help prevent cancer because your immune system works better. So it's a kind of a double-edged sword. If you don't have cancer at that point, your immune system might function better. NAD can help with the energy production, help that immune system work well, and then can find cancer and get rid of it. Our body's constantly finding these cells and clearing them out. Now, if you have cancer growing and unfortunately don't have a good way to test for this, you give someone NAD that has cancer already, it could potentially grow it. There's not a lot of great research on this right now. We just know that cancer loves NAD. So theoretically, more NAD to cancer will grow it. Same with MOTS-C, same idea. If you're making cancer, if you have cancer, you're making mitochondria. Cancer also needs mitochondria, so they're going to also want that as well. So those are two things I don't use in my cancer patients, even though theoretically beforehand it can prevent that. Um, Now, how does methylene blue, MOTS-C, and NAD work together? MOTS-C makes more mitochondria. NAD, think of as the fuel, right? So now we have someone out there and saying, "Hey, we got this fleet of cars. We need a bigger fleet. We need more of these engines." So we make more. Mot- MOTS-C comes in, makes more of these mitochondria. Now you have more engines, more way to make energy in the body and the cell level, and then you have NAD comes the fuel. Now the fuel comes in. You need fuel. You need the gas, so that's NAD, and methylene blue. Methylene blue is really special because methylene blue it doesn't fix anything. There's nothing fixing with my methylene blue. What methylene blue does is if you have damage to these mitochondria, you've made two, taken mitochondria, we split them in half, it's mitochondrial biogenesis, you take one, split it in half. Maybe this mitochondria had damage from something in the environment. Maybe it's glyphosate. Maybe you have mold. Maybe you had Lyme disease, and there's some damage to this electron transport chain. So there's different environmental factors or infections that can cause damage to different parts of the what's called electron transport chain, different complexes. And what methylene blue does is allow you to skip that complex and move the electron to the next one and basically save that energy so you don't lose it. If you have this damage to this mitochondria at the mitochondrial level, at the electron transport chain, and something's blocking this complex, doesn't let it work, methylene blue grabs the electron, says, "I'll take it. I'll go to the next one. Don't worry. We'll save you. We're going to save this." So you get to keep some of the energy you might have lost. So methylene blue is not a fix. In fact, patients I see that taking methylene blue and they're like, "My energy's great," I'm typically thinking, okay, well, what's maybe wrong? Something might be going on that has caused damage to that mitochondria, and we need to fix that first because methylene blue is going to be a temporary saver. It's not going to repair completely. MOTS-C is not going to repair either. NAD can have some repair to it because, again, it's making more energy, which helps everything kind of repair. But realistically, MOTS-C makes more. NAD comes as the fuel. And methylene blue is really good there if you don't know what you're doing, don't know what's going on. I just need more energy. And you have some kind of damage to your mitochondria. Methylene blue is a really good addition. So when patients take methylene blue, I feel nothing. I'm like, that's not probably the worst thing in the world. It may just not be that you need it. Whereas NAD, if patients don't feel anything, I'm usually wondering what's going on. Do you have enough NAD? Are you absorbing it right? What process is going on? If you feel nothing, and again, not everyone feels everything with every peptide we have out there, including MOTS-C and NAD.
Mhm.
So
And there's a question from Carly that says that she has a variation of the MTH gene, but her B12 levels when she was supplementing way too high. Let me do it in her quotes. So I don't take extra B12, but they eat so many greens that she thinks that she's getting enough. Would higher NAD pathways be an option for that?
so if you have the MTHFR gene mutation, you still need the methyl product. You might be eating a lot of things that get your B vitamins, but if you don't have the methylfolic, you also might be missing folic acid and trimethylglycine. These are two other products that I utilize with my poor methylators. So you want all three. You want to methylate B12, so maybe your B12 levels are fine, but where's your folate level? How's that working? And is your folate level high? Are you taking folic acid? Are you taking the methylfolate? Like, what are we taking to increase that? And again, I keep reminding people, patients, try methylglycine. It's a really important when they use in practice because you need to get this methylation pathway to work. So if she's got all these other things going on, and maybe she needs to check her folate levels, you can't really check your trimethylglycine levels. It doesn't really exist. There's no test for that really easily. But I highly recommend trying the product. and then try an NAD. If you're feeling bad when you take an NAD, you don't feel terrible if you take an NAD. So I definitely recommend trying the NAD, and we see how it works. So yeah, go for it and try it, but make sure you take the homocysteine supreme or something for the method products.
And there's a question on cycling. So, how long should someone be on NAD and when should they come off of it? And similar to MOTS-C, so can you briefly go over cycling on and off?
Yeah. So MOTS-C I use for 2 months at a time. It's 5 milligrams. Well, I guess we use in practice, and we use it like 3 times a week. LAMD is doing, I think, a little bit different than that, but we do a 2 month cycle. So I tell patients 2 months, and then, that's it. Cycle on, cycle off. Someone asked me yesterday, do we keep the mitochondria? Does this keep working afterwards? And the answer is yes, you do make more mitochondria, but eventually those mitochondria die off. This is what happens. The cells, you age. So your cells stop working as well. Those new mitochondria you make are going to be useful. And eventually you need to take it again, right? Because the aging process is a slow decline, right? Everyone, this is the reason we're on peptides. We're all taking the stuff to slow that aging process down as much as we possibly can. And this is where you can utilize MOTS-C, and you can utilize it every few months. You make more mitochondria, and eventually what happens is mitochondria kind of go down. Now we make more, we go back up. So I use it for 2 months at a time, cycle off, and then go back on typically 2 to 3 months afterwards. And with NAD, that is a hard one. I don't often have patients cycle. There is a recommendation to do about 3 months on and then 4 weeks off. We do that for a lot of peptides, even tesamorelin, ipamorelin, or tesamorelin, or CGC ipamorelin. I'm recommending that. GHKCU we cycle. Uh, there's lots of things we cycle. So I think, yeah, from a just standpoint of cycling, it's great. But NAD is something we need desperately. We're going to need for the rest of our lives. I am a 12-week on, 4 weeks off if patients want to cycle, but I have a plethora of patients that cycle zero touch, excuse me, ever. They never cycle, they never come off, and they just feeling great. Again, the only concern is if they get active cancer, then we have a problem. But even if they cycled off 4 weeks, it wouldn't change anything, right? They may be started being at cycle, had cancer, and 12 weeks out, not have found out or not knowing. So I don't personally do a cycle in my practice, but I think a 12 on, 4 off is a very reasonable cycle if people want to do that with NAD.
Do you see a difference between taking it in the morning versus at night? I personally like to do mine in the morning, so
Do not
I
take it at night. No, please don't take it at night. This is energy. Everyone, if you're taking NAD, you very likely will have more energy. Um, you will sleep better, but taking before bed, to sleep better is not the ideal. I gave it to my nurse. My gosh, this was probably 6 years ago. And I told my nurse, I said, hey, guess what? You're taking some NAD right now. It was probably 5 p.m. in the evening. Oh, I got cursed out real bad. She didn't sleep at all that night. She's like, I was up all night. I couldn't sleep. I was so angry at you. Gave me the shot. And I was like, I'm sorry. I wanted to try it on you, see what happened. I didn't want it to be me because I wanted to sleep. I've done that. I had another patient of mine that took his late in the evening. And again, I've had this numerous times. Patients can't sleep when they take it, if they take it too late in the evening. So I'm always saying morning, even for the nasal spray, morning time, because again, if it affects your energy at all, you don't want to be up all night. It can improve sleep, but it also gives you kind of a boost of energy for many people out there.
Mhm. And Rhonda asked, what labs should be tested for MOTS-C to determine when it needs to be cycled on again?
Oh, I don't have labs. I mean, it's for me, it's a 2 to 3 month protocol. Like if people want to go back on 2 3 months, they thought, let's say I have a patient, he right now he loves Motsy. I have one guy who really loves it. He does 2 months on, we take him off for 2 3 months. He's always like, when can I take it again? When can there's never a time he takes it, he doesn't feel good. There is no lab because there's no way to check to see how many mitochondria you have, what's the density of, how many are dying off. We don't have that information. Again, we can right now. There's some people testing NAD levels. I think this company called Ginfinity. I think that's who's doing it. Someone there's testing the NAD levels. Whether or not it's accurate, I'm not sure. But someone out there is doing that. There's no test for mitochondria that exists right now. How many mitochondria you have, that'd be really hard to determine. So I just kind of go on this. How do we feel? This is the problem with a lot of peptides. Some of stuff out there, it's how do you feel, right? Not lab work is great. And I tell people all the time, I need base work lab. I just made a video on this yesterday. I need to know your hormones. I want to know how the environment is that you're utilizing these peptides. I need that information. What's your inflammation? What's your sensitivity? What's your blood sugar? Those things matter to start. Those are tracking numbers. but they aren't going to tell me what's going on when I start giving peptides. There's no way to test how much BPC I need. There's no way to test how much thymosin beta 4, GHK. There's just no way to know that. So same with kind of MOTS-c for me. There are no specific labs that really determine that. If I see insulin sensitivity issues, high insulin, and I see kind of a blood sugar going up, that's when I use my MOTS-c. MOTS-c is great for helping improve that. So that is where I would use lab work, potentially looking at your insulin and hemoglobin A1C to help determine maybe your insulin's going up. We need to keep using MOTS-c for a bit longer.
Hmm. And I know you have to go soon, but I wanted to get a few more questions. So
Yeah,
Stephanie
of course.
asked, what do you think is better for cognitive function and clarity memory between NAD plus or MOTS-c?
Oh, definitely NAD. NAD is going to be more acute. I don't find that MOTS-c, I feel like, is building, right? Because we're building more mitochondria. So it's a building process. You're making more, you're making more. NAD is acute. You do a shot, bam, there's a difference. Do a shot, bam, there's a difference. There's an effect. So when it comes to brain fog clarity, I actually like the nasal spray better when it comes to brain fog. I think it's a much better product for that specifically. If you only want to do brain fog, I think the nasal spray is phenomenal. Big fan of that. I think the injectable works really well systemically, a little better than the nasal spray would. Not that the nasal spray doesn't work, it's just not as effective. Again, you're hitting right that nasal passageway actually can get right to the brain. Whether NAD can get in, very questionable, but NAD in the brain is very useful. We talked about this SARM1. SARM1, you use a lot of NAD in the brain, a lot of it. So utilizing something intranasal could potentially have a better effect for cognitive function. So yes, NAD, automatically.
What do you prefer to do, injections or the
Oh,
nasal?
injections all day, Brenda. I want to inject everything. I hate taking pills. I hate taking stuff up my nose. I used to Lank and C-Max. I don't want it up my nose. Can I just inject everything? Like inject everything. If I could just take my injections and poke myself all day long, I would take injections all day, every day. I am not a fan of pills. I'm not a fan of sprays, topicals, none of that. Just let me inject. Part of that is because that placebo effect, probably when you inject, you
Mhm.
just feel like you're getting the most out of it. Like I'm getting all of the NAD. My nasal spray, I'm like, well, something's dripped down my nose. I got to clean it up. And I didn't get everything. So I think that just the sheer idea of knowing that my stomach is going to break stuff down, I'm not going to be able to get all of it from my stomach. And then, of course, topicals, how much can get to your skin, where you apply it matters. I just think injectable every time because it's guaranteed to get in your system. Like there's no way it can't if you inject it.
And we're getting a few questions about glutathione and like I've done a few too, and I prefer the injections for the same reason. I feel
Yeah.
like I did the light spray, but I think I did it wrong. So I thought, man, I just give me the injection version. Like
Yeah.
as I think Kevin May says, he's just a human pin cushion. I'm like, same. Like,
Yeah, it is. I mean, I just have to remind everyone, like when you look at the biology, you absorb the injection. The efficiency of it is just, I mean, near 100%, right? You can look at every other way to take it, whether it's oral, nasal, topical, the amount you can take in is going to be smaller. So the amount you get from injection, and I don't care what company says they have a nasal spray or injection spray, it's going to work just as well. It doesn't. We know the biology. We know it can't get in there. The injection is always the win. I mean, even in India, not that it needs to spray for patients that want to inject. You need to spray, great. Or if you're people that are saying, I want my brain to be better, and I took my NAD, but I want like a brain spray today. I want my brain to be better. I have a cognitive performance needs to improve. I have a meeting or something to do. The nasal spray works great. I think it's an awesome product for that. But when it comes to systemic, I am all day, every day saying, just inject. Get over your injection fear. Just, it's a tiny needle,
mhm.
guys. It's like this big. Get it in and you'll get the most out of it. 93 to, about 96% sub Q when it comes to how much you absorb, which absorption is the most thing that matters the most.
I love it. There's just a few questions on glutathione.
Yeah.
Um, can you take glutathione injection for active cancer?
Yes, in active cancer, I actually use glutathione. I use it not around the chemo. So when we are using chemo in patients or even high dose vitamin C, we're trying to do oxidative therapies. Glutathione is an antioxidant. So I use it in days that patients are not utilizing their oxidative therapy. So yes, in cancer, I am using glutathione in patients. It's not contraindicated, but you have to know the timing. This is the problem. If you talk to your doctor and your doctor says, they don't know anything about the oncologist has no idea, and they're giving you a chemo, they're going to tell you never to take it. I am timing it out so that it's being timed when they're not or in between their treatments, because the last thing you want to do is give a treatment to kill off all the cancer and then give something that's going to stop that from working. And again, oxidative therapies are generally being used or partly to kill cancer cells. So the timing is what matters. It's not that you can't use it.
And I know we covered a few of peptides today, and I know we're coming up on time because Dr. Jason has plans, so
I
we'll
have a
definitely
tuna eat. I
have
have a
to
good
have him
tuna. I
back.
gotta eat.
Yeah. So of course we'll have him back soon. There's a lot of questions that we didn't get to, so please bring back your questions when we have Dr. Jason rejoin us again. But is there any parting information that you'd like to leave us with? I know we covered a lot.
Of
But
course.
anything that you want to share with them?
I mean, remember, there's a reason why I use compounded medications, everyone. Again, I want to remind you, this is the reason we do it. We want safety, is number one. Two, we're out here to help people as much as we can, right? And not everything we recommend to the people we talk to, they're going to love, or they're going to like, and they're going to get frustrated. This is what happens. You have to remind them this is how it happens to everyone. Not everyone that takes these things, NAD, MOTS-C, methylene blue, BPC, is going to come back and say, this was the best thing I ever took. But you'll have some people come back and say, thanks for the recommendation. You changed my life. You literally saved it. So it's knowing what to use and when to use it. And hopefully soon I'll be coming out the course that I'll be offering for really people that just want to learn more about peptides and how they work and what they do. So this is kind of my uh, plug. But I'm going to come out with something that I can help people that don't understand, kind of going over like this stuff, how to use it, when to use it, why to use it. Because I think people really, we all need to understand how to use stuff better, because a lot of you out there are talking to these clients and they're coming to you and they're coming to you with questions. They're saying, how do I use this stuff? And you're the only person that's doing this. Look, the LE&D doctors are great, but LE&D doctors not sitting on the phone with you for 20 questions. Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, Mrs. Jones. Oh, yeah, I can help this. They're not doing that, right? They're clearing you and letting you go. They're useful. It's not that they're not useful, but LED's point is to come educate you so you know what to say. So when people come to you and ask you, you can talk about it appropriately, because that's what matters. We don't want to be the dime a dozen. Here's your discount code. Use Brenda 43. We'll get you 30% off the peptide order. We don't want to be that. We want to feel like we're a step ahead of everyone else, having better education. That's really where LEMD wants to succeed, is better education and better quality products. And remember, you guys just joining here gives you the education to help you kind of perform better and be able to talk to people better about this stuff.
No, I love that. 100% education. Well, I feel like in the last like year and even all year content is so helpful with getting not only myself to understand it better, but like helping explain it to others. So
Perfect.
100%. And again, thank you so much, Dr. Jason, for educating us again. We'll definitely look forward to having you back again. And thank you to our viewers. Thank you for tuning in. If you were invited to this call by another brand partner or however you found it, please reach out to them. Again, Dr. Jason, thank you so much. Go enjoy that tuna.
I will. I will. I'll talk to you all later. Have a good one. Thank you so much, Brenda.
Bye.